My name is Jahin Tanvir, and I have an obsession. Raise your hands if you've ever been obsessed with something, maybe like a video game or a sports team. Okay, everyone, fantastic. I am obsessed with something in which 3 in 4 people are afraid of. I am obsessed with something in which people would rather be dead than doing this. I am obsessed with something that gives people anxiety. I'm obsessed with something that gives people this, the jelly leg. I am obsessed with public speaking. But not just general public speaking, I'm obsessed with the problem of public speaking. Why are people afraid of public speaking? Because you see, me being on stage right now, the adrenaline that I feel inside of me is crazy. It's insane. If you could feel what I feel right now, you'd be like, whoa, I'm the most alive right now. I feel excited. But if I ask other people, as mentioned, 3 in 4 people have a fear of public speaking. And for me, that doesn't make sense, right? If I feel this way, why doesn't other people feel that way? If I have a conversation with you, for instance, one-on-one, we can have a great conversation if we're both willing to have that. But if somebody else gets added to the conversation, or 2 other people get added, or 4 other people get added, you'll get a bit jittery, right? But why is that? We're talking normally, we're all humans. And so I decided to go on a bit of a journey to figure out why this is the case. Why are people afraid of public speaking? And so the first part of my journey led to university. University has fun people, right? And they also have smart people. So I decided to go into the room and the building of communication. I went to ask a professor who's a lecturer, academic, smart person. I went to the professor and I said, "Hey professor, I have a question for you." And the professor looked at me very weirdly because I'm not supposed to be in the building. I've got a health and medical background, so why am I in a building of communication? But they still, went on with it. And I asked the question, why are people afraid of public speaking? You give lectures in these massive rooms, you're talking in front of a lot of people, a lot of students who probably are half asleep most of the time. But why are you afraid, or why are people afraid in general? And the response the professor gave me was a very academic one. We're afraid of judgment. As human beings, we want to feel accepted, right? We want to feel like we fit in, and that helps. And so we're afraid of public speaking because of the fear of judgment. But in my head, it was like, but there's such amazing public speakers out there. Are they not wanting to be accepted? Are they not human? That makes no sense to me. And so I wasn't happy with that response. And so I waddled my way to another place. I went to the GP. And no, I didn't book an appointment just to ask the GP a question. I had a few issues with my knees after playing cricket. So I was like, I have an appointment. Let me ask them the question afterwards. So I went to the GP and I was like, "Hey doc, how are you? I have a question for you." And the doc was like, "Okay, ask me the question. We've got like 2 minutes left." And I said, "You speak to patients every day. You go to conferences. You've done all these things in front of a lot of people. Are you afraid of public speaking? And most importantly, why are people afraid of public speaking?" And so the doc looked at me and he was like, "That's the first time he's ever been asked that question." And I was like, "Thank you." And second of all, he was like, "I am afraid of public speaking. And it's a very human thing." And he started giving me the medical side of things. When you become fearful of public speaking, your brain releases steroids and adrenaline, your blood pressure increases, your body levels of sugar increases, and that's why you have that fight or flight response, right? We've all felt that, right? The jittery feeling. But I was like, but there are so many people on stage who are confident. They don't feel like they're shaking their hands or their voices are, shaky at all. They seem so confident. Again, aren't they human? That makes no sense to me. Again, I wasn't happy. And so then I hit the books. I went to the library and I was looking at all the books of communication and public speaking and the fear of that. I went to some books that were so old that they felt like they were just going to collapse in my arms. But I still read them. And I came across things like, you feel like you're in danger, you feel like you're being attacked. That's how it feels when you're in front of people. And there's just a lot of literacy, which for me, I didn't really understand. And I wasn't really happy with it. And so I then went back home and asked one more person. I asked one more person as to why we're afraid of public speaking. And this person I should have asked at the beginning because it would seem more natural. And I live with this person as well. And that person was my mother. I went to my mother, and she was cooking up a storm. Trust me, South Asian food is the best. I went up to her and I said, "Mom, hello, I'm not in trouble." I said, "Ammu, I have a question." Ammu is how we call mum in Bengali. And I said, "Amra jokhon manusher samne kotha boli, amra to bhoy pai keno? When we speak in front of people, why do we get so scared?" And so my mum looked at me for a while because she was like, "Why are you asking me this question?" But then she responded, "Jahin, tomar ki mone ache tumi jokhon skule jeta, tomar teacherra ki bolto tomake? Tomar ki mone ache tumi kemon thakta jokhon manusher sathe kotha bolta?" And when my mum said that, I had a massive flashback that honestly changed the trajectory of my career. What she said was that, "Do you remember when you were a child, when you were at school, how you reacted when you spoke in front of people? Do you remember what your teachers said about you when you were in primary school or high school?" And I remember listening to that, going back to my room and just sitting down and reflecting back on it. When I was younger, I had a massive stutter. And during this speech, during this talk, you'll probably notice that it's much more controlled now, but I had a stutter. And that caused a lot of social anxiety because I just thought people wouldn't care about me. I can't even communicate properly. And so every parent-teacher interview, as my mum reminded me, it would always be, "He's a great student, he's nice, he's gentle, he's kind, but he doesn't speak up in class. He doesn't talk. He needs to do more of that." And it's not because I couldn't talk, right? I had so much to say, so much I wanted to express, but I just was afraid. And when I remembered that, I realized I've been overwhelmed with this momentum of, I'm giving these talks, giving these speeches at, 18, 19, 20, that I forgot where I started. I forgot that 3 in 4 people do have a fear of public speaking, and I was one of them. And so that led me into my journey and starting something which I realized I was on both sides of the spectrum, and I wanted to make that gap absent. I wanted to fill that gap. So this year, at 21, I founded an edtech social enterprise called Breathe. And Breathe exists to provide public speaking education in the form of workshops, coaching, programs, partnerships, in order to provide accessibility when it comes to this education. So we provide public speaking education to children and young people from marginalized, disadvantaged communities, refugees, migrant communities, indigenous communities, with the sole focus of one word, accessibility. Because one shoe size does not fit everyone. If I come up to you and say, "Here are 3 tips to become a better public speaker," you'll be like, "No." You have different experiences, different things in your mind, and you need to be able to tap into that when it comes to public speaking. And so a big focus for us is, again, cultural competency. As you can tell, I'm a first-generation migrant. Ensuring that, safe storytelling, how can we create a safe environment? How can we have more fun rather than focusing on, this is the best way to start a presentation. And so that was the journey, and so far in the last 4 months, we've had the privilege of impacting over 15,500 young people from different communities, hospitals, regional, rural Australia. And for me, it's a great number, but I don't focus on the number. What I focus on is the idea that we all start from somewhere. The idea that public speaking is fearful. Don't get me wrong, it's scary, but it can be overcome. And that we all have a journey to share. And I've had the privilege of speaking on stages about public speaking with one focus, and that's the idea of destigmatizing this. My entire aim, one of my life's missions, is to get every single one of you comfortable on this stage. To not just have, it's a nice red dot, so it's a great TEDx stage, only people who have started companies or have done things under their belts can do. No. Leadership, public speaking, communication, speaking with conviction should be something accessible to everyone. Because again, we all have a voice, right? Raise your hands if you don't have a voice. I'm glad nobody put their hands up. We all have a voice. We all can use it. And we all can be leaders through that. And so after speaking to so many young people, so many different communities, there are 3 things that have come up. 3 things that have come up in why we're afraid of public speaking. And I want to cover that, but also debunk that. I want to show you, yes, it's reasonable to think of this, but why there is no point in that being a barrier. Number 1 is the fear of judgment. We've all heard of the fear of judgment, right? Social media has made that massive for us. If I come up in here on stage, in my head, there's many things going on. Is my hair looking all right? Do I look a little chubby here? Is my zipper up? There's a lot of things that you're thinking about, right? The fear of judgment. But one of my mentors at the beginning, when I first started this journey at 18, told me, and I'll never forget this. He told me, even if you do something good, or even if you do something bad, people will always have their own judgments. People will always have their own perceptions. Let me tell you why. If you do something bad, people will judge you, right? And rightfully so, right? If you do something really bad, you deserve to be judged. Perhaps you do something good, right? Let's say volunteer for a charity. That's a good thing, right? You volunteer for a charity and you post it on social media and say, hey, today I volunteered here. It was a fantastic experience. A lot of people will respond back and say, you're an amazing person. Thank you for volunteering. That's extraordinary. That's good, right? But there will always be another group of people that will look at that and say, who does he think he is putting on his social media? He should be volunteering behind the scenes. Why is he telling people he's volunteering? But volunteering in general is a good thing, right? You're helping a charity. But there's different perceptions. And you cannot control that. Why? Because we're human. So why fear judgment if you can't even control it? It makes no sense. The next one that's come up is comparing yourself with other people. Let me give you an example. I come up on the stage and I'm like, there's some very attractive people out there who, if they give a speech, I'll listen to them more. Some people have really nice hairstyles and I'm just here with a basic fade. Will they listen to me? I'm comparing myself with other people. But the reality is there's not a single person in this entire planet who's walked the same shoes that I have. There's not a single person on this planet who has had the same experiences, same energy, same thoughts that I have. And most importantly, there's not a single person on this planet that has had the same story that I have. And so if I compare myself with other people and how they speak or how they look when they speak or if they use their hands more or if they look more attractive when they're speaking, I'm losing the value that I have. I'm losing my story. And that's a disservice to myself. And that's what I tell everyone here today and everybody who goes through Breathe's programs, you all have a unique voice. It's all about letting that come out. And finally, the last thing before we wrap up, the best thing about public speaking that I tell people is have fun. Have fun. Have fun. Now I know what you might be thinking. This sounds so romanticized, so cliche. Have fun, you'll be great. Not in that sense. Because when you talk about the fear of public speaking, we talk about the fear, right? The jittery feeling, your heart rate increasing. You're like, oh, they're going to fall asleep. They're not listening to me. What's on the other side of that? What's on the other side of the fear? Fun. When you actually look into it and why we get that adrenaline feeling, that stress that you feel, that oh my God, I'm going to stuff up, I don't know what to do, that's all adrenaline. It's you who gets to decide if that adrenaline is the stress or the excitement. And so if you can reframe your mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to come up on this stage, I haven't prepared much, I'm just going to go have fun. I'm just going to be myself. I'm just going to walk around. I'm just going to, make the most of it. Live in the moment. Own the moment. What else can go wrong? Genuinely, what else can go wrong? You're just here to have fun. Because again, when we look at things in the stars, for instance, and in astronomy, we always have this thing where like, that's the only time that's going to happen. That's amazing. It's special. Let's really take it in. I challenge you to something else. Today, in this room, there's people from different areas, different parts of Australia, different places that they've come from, different upbringings. Where else am I going to be standing here talking to all of you at once? Where else? Some of you will graduate. Some of you will go to jobs. Some of you will move internationally. There will never be a chance where I can own this moment and speak to every single one of you in one room. Never. How special is that? How exciting is that? I want to own this moment, right? Because it's important. It will never come again. And so to end off, there's a quote by Renee Brown, who's honestly one of my biggest heroes when it comes to public speaking. And I utilize this quote in every speech or talk that I give when it comes to leadership or public speaking. And Renee Brown is somebody who's a fantastic public speaker who talks about shame and leadership and vulnerability. And I read an interview where somebody came up to her and they were obviously starstruck and they were like, Renee, you're so amazing when you speak. You're so confident. How did you get over the fear of public speaking? Right? Very normal question. Renee looked at that person and said, I actually didn't overcome the fear of public speaking. I'd rather be at home in bed watching Netflix than rather, being here and giving a talk or giving a speech. And that person looked at her like, what? What do you mean? How are you so confident on stage? And Brene Brown's reaction and response, and this is something I've got written on my wall at home, is it's not about being less fearful. It's about being more brave. The fear will always be there. Trust me, I'm scared right now, right? My body's telling me this is danger. There's so many lights. I'm partially blinded already, right? People are staring at me. It's not just one eye. Everybody has two eyes here. There's a lot of people looking at me. I should be nervous, right? The fear's there. It's always there. But I've reframed my mindset to say, you know what? This adrenaline, it's exciting. It's fun. When I see nods, that's fun for me, It means you're listening. Instead of focusing on the fear, let me be a bit more brave today and say, you know what? Let's have fun today. So again, when you do your next public speaking, when you do whatever leadership role that you have, it'll be scary. It's normal. Again, why? Because we're human. We're built like that. But if you can reframe your mindset and say, you know what? Let's have some fun today. Let's be exciting. Let's focus on the adrenaline rather than what can go wrong. Because what could go wrong? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I could probably push this and they'll fall. That's the worst thing that can go wrong today. Even then, there's still more lights down there, right? So make fun of that situation. Enjoy the moment. Live in the moment. Get away from the idea of having to be Superman all the time. That perfect addition, the S on your symbol or on your chest, having to be perfect. We can't be perfect. We're humans. We'll make mistakes. We'll have speeches where we're like, you know what? I could have done better. Or I should have used my hands more. There'll always be instances there. But try to be a symbol. Try to be a symbol of perseverance, of learning from your mistakes. Even if you want that S on your chest, get that S on your chest, but make it with crayons and textures and, put it on your chest with like blue tack and sticky tape. Because that's what makes us human, makes us fallible. And so when we wrap up, the best thing I tell in terms of a piece of advice on public speaking and leadership, and whenever you get out of your comfort zone, the most important thing to do before you start, giving a talk, giving a speech, or anything that's out of your comfort zone, the most important piece of advice I can give you that if you can take away from today is to just breathe. Thank you, everyone.